Well, welcome to Made in Racine. We're having a very special episode, which is actually on video. It is not just audio this time. I'm Cheyenne Lencioni. I'm the editorial assistant here at Racine County Eye, and I'm joined by local author Julie Jacobs. We're going to talk about her new book, Bicentennial Eve, which is very fitting given that it's the semi-quincentennial of the country. So I read this. It's a Wisconsin novella. It is really, really good.
Thank you.
When did it come out? It came out in May?
It came out on May 19th was official publication date.
So it's been out for exactly a month.
It's been out for a month, yes.
Okay. Well, let's hear a little bit about you. How did you get started writing?
Well, I've been a writer my entire life. I graduated with a degree in journalism from UW-Madison, and I worked in journalism and communications in Chicago and Milwaukee. And I always was interested in creative writing and did essays on the side and tried on and off to work on a novel, but I never get beyond the first few pages. But then in January 2025, my New Year's resolution was I'm finally going to finish this novel.
And you did it. It's over 200 pages, which is very, very cool. And I think it's published through Freshwater Creek Press?
Freshwater Press. It's based in Two Rivers, Wisconsin, and it's a small publishing company owned by three women, and it focuses on writers from Wisconsin's Lakeshore area.
Okay, and you're from Racine, is that correct?
I am, yes, I'm a native of Racine.
Cool. So how did you come up with this story? What kind of inspired you to write about an evening during the bicentennial?
You know, I was 13 years old during the bicentennial, the same age as the character Sky, and it just made a big impression on me. I just remember it being such a fun year. The fire hydrants were painted red, white, and blue, and there's bicentennial minute snippets on CBS, which were like little historical lessons in like 1 minute, and there's like all these bicentennial like knickknacks in the stores, like ornaments, napkins, and whatever, and it just seemed like such a fun, goofy year. And then after that, it just seems like people kind of forgot about it, but it always stuck in my mind, and I just thought that would be a good time period for a story about a Wisconsin family.
Mm-hmm. And I noticed that you put it in a fictional town as well. What did you use to create the town, as it were?
It's inspired mostly by Racine and Kenosha and a little bit of like Port Washington mixed in, and I went back and forth, like, should it be Racine or should it be a fictional town? And then I decided creating a fictional town gave me a little bit more flexibility in terms of like the businesses and the layout of the community.
Mm-hmm. If you were going to give a short synopsis of this story for anyone who's interested in reading it, how would you pitch it?
Oh, certainly. I would describe it as a gentle slice of life story about a ordinary Wisconsin family on the day before the 4th of July, 1976. And as each family member goes about their day on this Saturday, July 3rd, each one's wrestling with a little dilemma or decision that they're facing. And then, by the time the fireworks start, because in this novel they're having fireworks on the night before the 4th of July as well, will everyone have found their pursuit of happiness and their little dream of independence.
Mm-hmm. And I love how, because it's a family, you get all these different stages of life. You get Kitty, who's the old grandma, and then you get the parents, Claire and Joe, and then you get the kids, and then the aunts and uncles, as it were. So I love how that can relate to everybody. And of course, living in Wisconsin and Illinois, you get fireworks even if it's not the 4th of July.
Absolutely.
We had ones going off the other night.
Yeah.
So my dog did not care for it.
My dog does not care for it either.
I also noticed that in the book there is a dog named Honey. Did you base Honey off of your dog?
I did. We had a poodle when I was growing up named Coco, and then I've had, dogs my entire life, and I do have a little poodle now, so yes.
Oh, cute. Who is your favorite character in this book?
Oh gosh, it's hard to pick a favorite because, of course, they're all my characters, so I love each one. But I would say Grandma Kitty, because at age 74, she just decides to go out and have an adventure. So I really admire that.
Yeah, it was a fun perspective shift of her journey, where she's not just sitting at home sharing stories with her family. She's going out and making another story.
Yeah, yes.
So I like that twist a lot.
Thank you.
How did you come up with the idea for the different family dynamics and the problems that each family member was going to go through?
because the one thing that was always so hard for me in terms of writing a novel is I'm terrible at plots, and I'm not like one of those people like, oh, I'm just gonna have like a page turner, and so I knew it'd have to be a character-driven story. So it was just a lot of like noodling and thinking about like, okay, what dilemma or decision would each person face, and I thought like Sky, something to do with first love, and then Grace having torn between going on this trip abroad and with her boyfriend, and then Claire, that was sort of inspired in the 1970s. My mom and my aunt, they took an assertiveness training course at Gateway, and I was just thinking about a woman who's a housewife and a mom, trying to do something new that's outside of the traditional sphere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I think if you watch older movies or or TV shows set in the 50s, a lot of women wrestle with that when it comes to second wave feminism of I'm a wife and a mother, but what am I beyond that?
Yes, yes.
And I think that's a struggle that modern day women have too.
Oh, absolutely.
So I thought that was a really fun exploration. And then there's a couple of fun male characters as well. You've got Joe, who's the husband, Rob is his brother. I thought Chester played was very sweet. It was fun. And then let's see, what else do I want to put in here? How did you, when you were creating each of the different dilemmas and you added in the epilogue of the story, not to give away spoilers for anyone who wants to read the book, but did you always have the epilogue and end in your head for where you wanted them to be, or was that developed as you wrote?
I think that was developed as I wrote. I sort of had like a general idea, but then when I was writing the epilogue, I had to narrow it down and sort of like nail down exactly where each character was, like 25 years later and 50 years later.
Yeah. What are you going to be doing for the semi-quincentennial this year?
Well, probably getting together with my family, my sister and brother-in-law and my significant other, and maybe hopefully going to the parade, and then I'm in a senior ladies pom-pom group with my sister, so on July 2nd we're doing the parade in West Dallas, so just celebrating the country like everyone else is.
And yeah, I definitely know that it's changed in the past 50 years, because I grew up in a small town. So we have pictures and videos of the parades that we did and the different games and whatnot, and different communities coming together, and we're not as big as Racine. So it's interesting how 50 years ago people celebrated so differently compared to today, where it seems a lot more toned down in some areas, but then in other areas it's still, like with Fourth Fest, it's still going and people love it.
Yeah.
So do you feel like over the last 50 years we maybe have lost something with how we celebrate and get joined together as a community?
I think so. I think there's so many more demands on time and so many more things people can do. Like, you can be on your phone, you can be watching something, on streaming services. So there's more opportunities for socializing. So, going to a parade or just watching fireworks may not have the same appeal that it would 50 years ago.
Yeah, and I think community has kind of changed with how we interact with each other. There's a lot less coming together and being present in person.
Yeah, much more.
Because of the online accessibility.
Yeah.
Let's see. Do you have a favorite scene in the book?
Let's see. It's hard to pick one, but I did have fun writing the scene where Sky and her friends are filming the recreation of the writing the Declaration of Independence for their summer accelerated history class, because I was just thinking of a group of 13-year-olds and how they were interacting with one another. And I also like the scene where Claire and her friends are having their book club and they're talking about the bastard and
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so that was fun to write too.
I actually looked up that book series.
It's good.
I haven't read it, but I looked it up to go, oh, what is this based on? So when it came to research, how difficult or easy of a process was it to get all the historical pieces for the books that they read in the book club, and the different physical things that ground you in specifically the 70s and then the 50s and then the Great Depression, talking about the different times of the characters?
The 70s, I remember that era from being a child then, but there's things I had to go check on, like because that was like 50 years ago. It's like, okay, what type of movie camera did they have in the 1970s? So I just would Google, like, what were the movie cameras in the 1970s? Or, when did tab soda become available? Because I remember, drinking tab, and it's like, was it available in 1976? Or like, who did the Brewers play on July 3rd, 1976? And, so a lot of research like that, and then I avoided AI. I didn't want to just like type something at AI and have it spit out all the answers. I wanted to look at each thing individually. So did that. I looked at old copies of the Racine Journal Times from July 3rd to July 4th, 1976. And then for like the 50s and the 30s, the same thing. I remember things that my grandmother told me and my mom told me about the like the 30s and 50s, but again, just sort of fact checking to make sure that things were correct.
And you had to do a lot of research for the Great Depression and for World War II because of the different ages that the characters were.
Yeah.
And delving into their backstories.
Yeah.
Did you have a favorite era to research that you got more into than the others?
I've always loved the 1940s, even though World War II was, like a horrible event. I think it was a time when people really pulled together, and I loved the music and the fashions of the 1940s.
I think it's very much so a romanticized time.
Yeah.
And it's also a time where people felt like they had a lot of purpose because everybody came together for this big crisis.
Yes.
So,
And it also surprised me writing this book as it brought back memories of how fresh World War II was in the 1970s. Obviously the Vietnam War was the war of the 1960s and the 70s. But in 1976, people who fought in World War II or who were children during World War II, they were still in their 40s and 50s. So they weren't like yet the revered greatest generation of the early 2000s. It was just like, oh, your high school teacher was in World War II, or your neighbor, or so it's just very much the time period between 1945 and 1976 was like the difference between 1995 and now. So it really wasn't that far in the past.
Yeah, I know for me, I wasn't alive yet in 1995, but it still feels like the 90s were yesterday.
Yeah.
Instead of it being almost 30 years ago, depending on.
Yeah, exactly.
And I love how with Claire's brother Mike, how you use that as Kitty going, oh, what would Mike be like if he had not died in World War II?
Yeah.
And them all kind of going through that of, I wish he were here, how would this have affected my life? Would people be together? Would they not? What kind of family would he have? Because I think it helps with people who have experienced that loss. And when you have a big celebration, you want people there.
Yes.
When you're coming together as a family. So I really liked Mike.
Yeah, it was, I'm a big World War II buff, and in 2004, I went on a group tour to Normandy for this, that was the 50th anniversary of D-Day, and we went to the American Cemetery on Omaha Beach and other historic sites, and it just really was so profoundly moving. So that's why I included this character that was killed the day after D-Day, on Omaha Beach, and I just thought, like, what, how would that affect a family? It's something that you'd never really get over.
Yeah, and I think it's Kitty who says he made it through D-Day, and then he died the next day.
Yeah.
And so I think that just makes the loss even more poignant. He survived this huge battle, this deadly, deadly battle, only to die the day after in the aftermath. So I appreciated that detail.
Oh, thank you. It was like, sort of the randomness of war, that if you were standing here, you survived, and then if you were standing there, you didn't. And, and then his friend Greg, just like he survived, but like Mike didn't.
Did you have any inspirations that you pulled from for writing each of the different characters? Because you've got Vivian, who's the spinster sister, you've got Claire, who's the mom, and then Grace and Sky are the kids, and then Joe and Rob and Kitty. Did you have any, whether it's someone in your real life or somebody in pop culture that you pulled from to create those characters?
It's like sort of making a character is sort of like making a cake. So a lot of the inspiration is from my own family. My parents who are now deceased, and my grandmother and so forth, and then it mix it in with like other people I may know, or people in pop culture, or just even strangers you see on the street. Just sort of mix it all together and come up with a character.
Yeah, I love Vivian. She's
Oh,
fun.
I had a great aunt who was, like never married, and she was very adventurous and loved to travel and read and so forth. So she was sort of an inspiration. And I'm not married, so I guess I'm sort of a Vivian too in my family.
But I liked how her journey of not being married and being the aunt instead of the mother is juxtaposed with Claire.
Yeah.
Because Claire is the one who got married and had kids.
Yeah.
And I think she says that Vivian comes in for the fun parts. She doesn't have to deal with the hard parts of raising kids and being a wife and being in that role, versus Vivian, who loses out on a lot because of the life she chooses, but gains her independence and gets to choose what kind of life she wants more freely.
Yes.
So it's very interesting to watch these two women go through their journey and have that juxtaposition, as it were.
Yeah, between being because each one has its challenges, being a wife and a mother and being single. It's just, not one's better than the other, it's just different.
And then, did you have any plans for Rob's wife? Rob is Joe's brother, Amy being Rob's wife. Did you have any plans when you brought that side of the family together?
In terms of the plot, or I just thought that I didn't want everything to be like, oh, everyone has a happy family and everyone's married or everyone gets reunited. So I knew I didn't want Rob and Amy to get back together, at least keep it kind of ambiguous. And so I just thought that this is like, I didn't want it to sound like they were going to have a happy ending. I wasn't sure when I was writing it if I should actually like have her in the book or have her appear, and then I just decided to just leave her and leave it with him thinking of a phone call between them, and let the reader sort of like connect the dots.
Yeah, because I think you feel that loss a lot more. And you can empathize with Rob and with his son Sam of, well, she's not here anymore.
Yeah.
And she's the mom of the family, and she's went up north, granted for a legitimate reason, but she's still not with the family.
And in the 1970s, I believe that that was a time when the divorce rates started going up a lot, because like women no longer felt they had to stay married for economic reasons, and so the divorce rate spiked. And it was in some ways it was good because people could get out of unhappy marriages, but then it also caused a lot of upheaval for for their families. So
yeah, it's interesting to explore that, even if it's just on a side part of the main story. Because while Rob is still a main character, the primary focus is Joe, Claire, the girls, and Vivian.
Yeah. More
so, but it was nice to see the divorce from the man's side and to feel the absence of Amy instead of having her have a scene up north.
Yeah, and I think in the past I dated like men who are divorced, and they always seem to have so much pain. And so I think I brought that in, like the pain of divorced men I've dated.
Yeah, because there is a loss with that of you have a relationship that was very significant where you were married, and for one reason or another it just didn't work out.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a poignant piece that I think adds to the story. One thing that I found interesting is when Claire goes downtown and she's looking at the different buildings, her dad's old pharmacy shop, and she goes to the other store, and she's talking about how downtown is dying because of the malls. Well, granted, I don't have any frame of reference for being alive in the 80s or 70s because I wasn't, but I think it's interesting how the downtown is dying compared to from the 50s to the 70s, where when I think of a town dying, I think of it more modern, because people are not going out as much, or they're not going to the malls, or they've all moved to different coasts and whatnot. So I thought it was interesting that the town is dying in the 70s when it was thriving 20 years earlier.
Yes, when I was a child in the 70s, downtown was, it was dying, or it was dying. Like the stores were closing, and they're moving out to Regency Mall in the 1980s. So it really was, just sort of a sad place. And then in the 80s, when the marina was built, Festival Hall, then other businesses and stores started coming in. But it's sort of interesting how downtowns died, and then malls were a big thing, and then like now the malls are dying, but downtowns are more popular.
Yeah, it's almost like a cycle.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's nice to see downtown come back.
It is, yeah.
Because I think when you think of a small town or you think of a city like Racine, downtown is a huge anchor for that.
Oh, absolutely.
It's the central hub where you have parades and you have big events, and it's where all the little shops are and the local businessmen are. And malls are great, but they're not. You don't get the same experience in a mall versus downtown.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I think in the 60s and 70s, everyone wanted things to be modern, and like, oh, downtowns are old. Like, we'll have like this new mall out by the expressway, and now I think there's more of appreciation of things that are old and historic.
Yeah. I know you said that you kind of pulled from Racine when you created the town that they're in, but is there anything else specifically that you took from Racine and put into the fictional town that they live in?
I took the, just like sort of, like the downtown, the Svensons, when Claire's thinking of like the Svensons home goods store, I was thinking of the Luma Denmark, which was a Danish home goods store in Racine. My mom would take me there, and we'd have lunch and the ice cream in the silver dish. And then, just like, they have a lighthouse and so forth. So yeah, it's just like different inspirations and just sort of mixing it with my imagination.
And that's always the best way to write a story, is you start with what you know and then you build from there.
Exactly.
Let's see if I have any other stuff that I wrote down real quick. Oh, the party that Grace goes to with her aunt and uncle. Did you base that on anything from research or from real life?
Well, I sort of had the inspiration for the Sullivan Center from Wingspread, which would have been it, but it's fictional. The Sullivan Center, that's a fictional place out of imagination. But I was just thinking about some place where they'd have a beautiful party, but all like the backstory about the parties that they would go to and so forth in the 40s. That was completely my imagination.
I kind of want a story more on Greg and Vivian's time with Mike in that era where they were going to those kind of parties.
Yeah.
You kind of get to see that life a little bit more.
Yeah. I mean, I've been sort of, noodling around ideas. I mean, I can't really do a sequel, but maybe a companion book that would explore some of these backstories a little bit more.
Because even the snippets that we get, it definitely feels like you're back in the 40s and the 50s and 60s. And it's just fun to get those little glimpses of someone's life as it's just naturally coming up for them, either in memories or conversation. And I also liked the almost parallels with what Grace is going through, having to choose between going abroad or staying home with her boyfriend, and then comparing that to Vivian with Greg. And I thought that mentorship was really good.
Yeah, it was. I don't know if I was consciously thinking about it that way, but yeah, because she went to Chicago, and then Grace was torn between staying with her boyfriend or going abroad.
Do you know if there were a lot of women in this area who chose to go to Chicago for jobs compared to Milwaukee?
I don't really know that, but I do remember my parents would talk a lot about the North Shore rail line that would go between Milwaukee and Chicago. So I was thinking that Chicago, and my grandfather, he worked for a meatpacking company in Chicago, so he would take the train down. So I guess I just was sort of thinking of somebody going to Chicago and getting a job at one of the advertising agencies there. And New Start, yeah.
City. Yeah, because she does need a new start.
Yeah.
Everything has changed for her it changed for everybody with World War II. And then she weighs her options and goes, okay.
I'm going, yeah.
I'm going. What was the character that was hardest for you to write?
Let's see. Well, maybe two of them. Maybe writing the 13-year-olds was hard. So maybe writing like Zach, trying to get my mind into that of a 13-year-old boy, I would say. And then also Rob, trying to get my mind into that of a divorced man.
I will say, reading Skylar's bit, I went right back to being 13.
Really? Oh, good. I'm glad. I guess I did it okay.
Yep, I went, oh, yep, that's a decision I would have made at 13. You need to run. You need to run. Get away from him. He's not good for you. But I liked how each of the kids were distinct from that little friend group, because you've got the two boys, you've got the one that Skylar has a crush on, the one that maybe has a crush on Skylar, and then Jenny, who is not very nice to Skylar.
No,
and
it's like a frenemy.
And thinks she's all that in a bag of chips, when really you're not. You're just a kid. And I liked how you got to see their distinct personalities, how Billy is more careful and, you know, we're in my house and we're not going to drink my dad's beer, and Jenny is far more rebellious, going, well, I'm going to do whatever I want.
Yeah.
And then Zach is, you know, going, well, I've got two girls that like me. I'm 13. I'm gonna see what I can do here. So I liked that, and I liked how Skylar's self-discovery is different than her sister's. Skylar's is, and they both ask Vivian this question, I don't know who I am. I don't know how to figure that out. But Skylar's is more in a sense of, I have time to figure out who I am, versus Grace feels like she has a deadline.
Yeah.
What she wants, because of when she's gonna go to France.
Yes.
And even decide what to do with Ben.
Yes.
So did you pull from your own childhood when writing Grace and Skylar?
I did. I'm probably the most like Sky, and I was sort of like an awkward, shy teenager, and I had a journal that I, you know, wrote in for years and years and years, so I could see myself, like, I mean, we didn't live by the lake, but, you know, that would be me, scribbling in my journal and being kind of like awkward and, you know, not knowing how to act with boys. And then Grace, that was, well, maybe she was a little hard to write too, because I had to put myself in the shoes of a young woman who's very popular and poised, which was not me. But I did have a situation in college where there was a guy I liked, and he went away for his junior year abroad, and I was very sad. And so I kind of like channeled that, and thinking of like how, you know, she might be torn in this situation.
Yeah, I think that came across really well, because you can tell that he's doing what he can to support her decision, and she's wrestling with, okay, I want to go, and I love you, but do I want to be with you for the rest of my life?
Yes.
And when you're, I think she's 18 years old, when you're that young, you don't know.
You don't know, no.
And granted, in the 70s, I feel like the compared to now, older teenagers and younger teens or younger 20-year-olds were seen as more mature because of how they grew up.
Right.
They had to experience different things than we do, and they were raised very differently. Your generation was raised way more independently than ours. But I think you can see that even though she's 18 and she might be mature enough to go abroad to France for a year or so, she's still a kid.
Right, exactly.
She's not an adult.
No.
And it's interesting that that's a conundrum that she's running into.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's the same conundrum of, okay, well, if you have a long-term boyfriend, you're going away to college, do you stay together or do you break up? Do you try it long distance or, you know, navigate it that way? But with Grace, she's going abroad and she wants to experience it fully, but she has to wrestle with, okay, well, what do I feel for the guy that I've been with for X amount of time? And how is he supporting me and whatnot?
Yes. There's no easy answers. You know, you don't know, like, if I make this decision, will I regret it? Or if I make that decision, will I regret it?
That was the relationship that I was hoping for the most of. Don't break up.
That was a hard one. I didn't want it to be like, oh, they're just together and everything was fine. So that's why I, you know, wrote it the way I did in terms of how their relationship evolved over the years.
And I might have already asked this, but how did you come up with each different conflict that different characters would come up with?
Yeah, that was hard because I kept worrying, like, oh, there's not enough conflict in this book. There's nothing to keep people, you know, turning the pages. So I just kept trying different ideas and thinking, like, what would their dilemma be? You know, just sort of, I guess, like experimenting and thinking of like different possible dilemmas. Like I reach ones I thought, you know, made sense for each character.
Yeah, and I like how it's situational to each point of life. life that they're in. Like Claire is dealing with the wanting the shop and being more, the world being a little bit more feminist and, you know, struggling with that. And then Grace is with her boyfriend and traveling and everything. I thought that was fun. And then the family tree was very useful.
Oh, good. Yes, my editor Tara suggested that because there's a lot of characters, you know, for a short book.
Yes, and it helped me a lot with keeping track, just because I'm a very visual reader, of who is related to who. And I liked the fact that Joe's stepfather is Claire's uncle.
Yes, sort of adding a little
adding a little bit of a twist in there.
Yeah.
How did you come up with that dynamic for Chester to be Claire's uncle and Joe's stepdad?
I don't know. Well, my grandmother, my father's side, was sort of I guess like a fun person, like Edna, you know, was before her dementia. I don't know. I just thought like, oh, it'd be interesting if she was paired with, you know, some really nice guy. But instead of making him just someone, you know, not relating to anyone, let's make him Kitty's brother, and then just sort of, you know, make it a little bit more complicated.
Yeah, and I think it helps to ground him more in the narrative of the story.
Yes.
Because he's not a stranger to the family.
Right.
So I thought that was really funny.
Oh, good.
And then we've got how the siblings are related, and then the parent to child, and the death and birth dates also helped because I had to go, oh, Kitty's husband, who's no longer alive, was born in 1900. So that gave further context, and then I could go back and relate it to family members that I've researched and go, okay, so Frederick would have been alive at the time of my great 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 grandfather. Okay, and this is what he would have lived through. So I think having the dates and the family tree definitely helped, not just for keeping track of how everybody's related when you're first reading the book and getting all these different characters, but also looking at the dates and going, okay, so Frederick lived from 1900 to 1960, so we would have seen World War I, World War II, the Great Depression, and then into the 60s. And then Skylar and Grace were born both in 1958, so they're obviously alive for the Vietnam War, but they weren't alive in time for World War II. And then Skylar's the youngest, being born in 1963.
Mm-hmm.
So I liked that. I thought that was very, very useful.
Oh, good.
And
good.
Very, very helpful.
Good.
Just to keep everything straight, just to give that more of that historical context. The other thing that's interesting about how you wrote the book is that each chapter is a different character's narrative. How did you come to that decision on that's how you wanted the book to be written?
Well, at first it was just going to be from Sky's narrative. It's just like, and I went back and forth. Like I tried writing Sky in first person, and then I tried in third person, and then try like, okay, like writing it like first person, like the viewpoint of a 13-year-old, and then writing first person, but she's an adult looking back. And then I finally realized that I couldn't tell the story unless I had other characters' viewpoints, because things were happening where, you know, like Skylar wasn't there. Mm-hmm. So then I decided to have these alternating viewpoints. And I mean, looking back, writing a novel with 7 different viewpoints, like in the compressed timeline of like one day, probably was not the smartest way to do a first novel. But you know, it's like let's make this as hard as possible. But you know, it was interesting. It really made me think about each character and how like each one was like had a different viewpoint and different opinions and so forth.
Yeah, and you also had a shortened timeline for the emotional arcs of the day. Mm-hmm. Of like what Vivian and Greg are going through versus Claire versus, you know, Skylar and her crush and everything versus Grace's dilemma. And there's like the distinct timeline of you get less than 24 hours. What do you go through in a day?
Yeah.
And family gatherings always bring up the fun emotions and whatnot of either good things or bad things.
Yes, they do. And I think I was inspired by like movies, other movies or books that take place in one day, like Roman Holiday, where that's just like one day.
Yeah. How long did it take you to write this book?
It was, well, I started it, gosh, probably maybe like 10 years ago, and it was just like 4th story. That was like the working title is in my folder. And I could not get past, like I just kept rewriting the first 2 chapters with Skylar and Grace, and I couldn't get beyond it. And then I'd write a little bit more, I was like, oh, this is like so bad, this is so stupid. And then finally, in January 2025, my New Year's resolution was I'm going to finish this book. And so I did, and then Tara from Freshwater Press, I knew her through the Wisconsin Writers Association and a writing group that we were both in, and she's like, well, we're accepting manuscripts and this fall if you want to submit it. So I just really hunkered down and got it done and submitted it in I think it was like September, and then I got the notice in December that they wanted to publish it. And it was like, yay!
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
What a great Christmas present.
Oh, it was.
And you got your New Year's resolution met.
I did. I think the only one.
Do you have any plans to write another book?
I am noodling over a couple ideas, maybe a companion book to Bicentennial Eve about the Ames family, or maybe new characters. So we'll see if I can come up with like a good idea and characters.
Because this was just really, really fun.
Oh, thank you.
It.
I appreciate you reading it, and if anyone wants to buy it, it's available on Amazon and bookshop.org.
Okay.
And I'll have a reading June 27th at our Nut and Son Books in Racine, and then another reading on July 11th at Vintage and Modern Books in downtown Racine.
Okay, awesome. Well, if you heard Julie, if you want to get the book, it is available, and it is so fun. I love the Polaroid photograph on the cover and the fireworks. It's just so fun. And we hope that you'll have hopefully more stories in the future.
Thank you so much for having me on your podcast.